I go by one of the most charismatic public speakers that you've never heard of. This is my debut here at Seoul DXB last year. I was here in the audience actually watching, and this is special for me, so allow me just to do this because I'm very grateful to be sharing this platform with you yourself.
Man.
But last year I was in the audience. I had someone in the audience here, Hassan Hajjaj, was getting interviewed, and I remember telling my wife that, like, yo, next year I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I wanna be across someone great at Seoul DXB. I put it into the universe, I manifested it, and alhamdulillah, I'm here sitting next to somebody who's completely transcended sport. He's taken his form of movement, but he's adapted that. And I think with this intro, I'm really, really excited to say that we've got someone who is more than an athlete. He's not been defined by his method of movement. He's used it as a platform to do so much for himself, but also his community in New York, and cultivated that community around the world. He is one of, if not the biggest names in BMX riding, and he doesn't even compete. That we'll go into, because I think that is something about his story and what makes him so unique. He's a philanthropist, he's an author, he's a filmmaker. He's back in Dubai after 6 years. Can we please give a round of applause for the man, Nigel Sylvester, in the building. Homage to you, bro.
Thank you for the intro, man. I appreciate that.
First of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Yeah.
And really happy to be back in Dubai. Like you
That's
said,
nice.
I haven't been here since 2017, man.
Crazy.
So, to see the energy in the city, to see how it's developed. Talking to a bunch of my friends around here, like, man, like the place is different now. You know,
It
but
does
it's good.
that. Like by next week, Monday, it's gonna be a brand new city as well. That's how it works in Dubai. Dubai,
I believe it.
you can leave and then you'll see something brand new. This time around, you're not jumping out of a plane though, right?
Nah,
the bike's
man.
on the ground, your feet are on the ground.
I'm on the ground, but
No
we've been
back
talking
there.
about going skydiving. My boy Ralphie's in here somewhere, and he's been like, "I want to go skydiving." So
That would definitely be a moment.
maybe tomorrow we might jump out of a plane. We'll
Inshallah,
see.
that would be dope. I think with this talk and with who you are, we've kind of entitled it Remaining Authentic in a Storytelling Era. And I think this pays homage to who you are as a man, but also your career and what it's embodied. And I always believe that it's important, as much as we're going to go into the success, who you are, what you've done, to take it back to the beginning. There's a saying that says to understand the person, you have to understand their earliest years. And although I'm Muslim, I'm going to go a little churchy today and take it back to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, who was Nigel? Take us back to yourself in the beginning, where you're from, who you were, upbringing.
For sure. So I'm originally from Jamaica, Queens, Laurelton to be exact. And I mean, Queens was colorful, right? Like, it wasn't the best the best neighborhood in New York, but also wasn't the worst. You know, so I grew up seeing a lot, right? Whether it was dope boys outside or seeing kind of, you know, things that happen during like the summertime, but also seeing affluent black people be successful and do things and achieve success and those type of different things. You know, grew up in a Grenadian household, so both of my parents are immigrants. I'm first generation, so that means
Like
the household was a bit strict.
Yeah.
You know, like coming here, my parents were like, listen, you're going to go to school, you're going to get an education, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a job, and it's going to be traditional.
Yeah.
And I knew early on that that wasn't going to be my path. You know, like, I didn't say that early on, but in my mind I knew.
You couldn't do that. Not at home. I
Not
know
at
exactly
all.
what it's like.
Right.
Yeah. Nah, that's amazing. And just in terms of, you touched on like the surroundings, you saw affluent black people, but then you also saw the dope boys and all of that. How did that mold you? Because again, being a first generation Nigerian born in the UK and growing up, it's very easy to be swayed in one of those directions. How were you not swayed to that direction, if we could say?
Man, like, I seen the results of certain things in real time. You know what I mean? Like, there was certain summers where I'm like, damn, what happened to homie? And it was like, he's not here no more, or he's locked up, shit like that. And then I seen also like the results of staying locked in and pursuing a dream. You know what I mean? So like that was my like compass per se.
And in terms of being, again, first generation, how did culture play an impact to your upbringing? Because I'm Nigerian, so growing up at home, my mum would whip me, bro. Like, I felt them beatings. I don't know what it's like with Grenadian parents, but how was that upbringing at home, being strict on your books, on education?
Same, man. Like, discipline was a big part of my upbringing. And I'm actually happy that my parents did. You know what I mean? Like, they disciplined as much as possible. You know, and like, I would carry on that discipline into my BMX career and in life in general. You know, like, there were definitely times where I've did something wrong and my mom sent a slipper like gliding by my ear, you know what I mean? Like that was part of it, you know?
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I also think it's important to also understand like those people that influenced you. Like
Right.
growing up, who were those people for you? I've heard your story. I've heard about your cousin. Your
Right.
grandma plays a huge role in
Huge.
terms of BMXing. But who were those people early on that influenced you to make you the man that you are today?
For sure. So I always have to pay tribute to my mother. You know, I grew up in a household with a strong black woman, and she sacrificed and dedicated herself to provide for her family. You know, she was the head of my household. So whether it was directly or indirectly, I learned so many lessons from her. You know, on like, again, how to stay locked in, how to stay dedicated, the results of hard work, like all these different things that she taught me. Also my brother, you know what I mean? Like he was a huge influence. Like when you speak about individuality, like that kid had it at a very early age, you know what I mean? And I always joke around and speak about how in junior high school, when everyone was wearing like sneakers and jeans to school, like he's in slacks and suspenders and like shit like that. And it was so
He was
dope.
already
Like no one
trailblazing.
told him to do that. That's just who he was. Like that's what he gravitated towards. So seeing at an early age,
Yeah.
I knew it was okay to just embrace me, embrace what was real to me.
Wow. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. I think that takes us on to what began to be the reason why you are what you are, and that's your mode of movement. And I think when we look at BMXing, when did you first make that cycle? Like, what was that first moment on the bicycle for you?
Right. So even like earlier, you spoke about my grandmother's driveway.
Yeah.
Right. And grandma's driveway was a very pivotal moment for me. Right. Like my earliest childhood memory is I'm 4 years old.
Wow.
And my grandma at that point in time, she had like a daycare per se, where she would take care of a lot of the kids in the neighborhood. And on the block, 218th Street in Laurelton, Queens, there's a lot of kids on that block, right? And my grandmother's house was this like this hub, so there's always toys and bikes and activities around. And I came outside one day and I got on my big wheeler, right? It was just in the driveway, and I think at that moment in time, the bike chose me.
Wow.
And I got on it and I fell in love. And I like to say that I fell in love at first ride.
That's crazy.
Because that moment would go on and change my life and dictate my life forever.
And was biking ever in your family before, or are you the first? Are you that?
I'm the first. I think my uncle had a motorcycle. He'd ride through Grenada, but but other than that, like no one really had like a knack or like took to the bicycle in that way.
No,
But
that's
I
great.
always looked at it as again a place of just pure joy and excitement. You know.
And then what kept you on the bike? Because many people can start something, and I know you mention this when you say we all learn, it's a rite of passage, right?
Right.
As kids, we all learn how to ride a bike, but for most of us, we kind of let that go at a certain age. We go for a car, we do this and that, but you kept on the bike. Why?
Yeah, like you think about like teenage years, right? Like around the age of 16, 17, like most people in my neighborhood started to get learner's permits and driver's license, and once you get a car, it's over. You know what I mean? Like people got like Honda Civics and Acura Integras, and they was souping them up and dropping them and putting exhaust pipes and shit on them, you know? And I was into that shit too. Like there was a point in time where like, yo, I'm gonna get a Honda Civic like 87 and that's it. But there was something about the bicycle that again like it allowed me to express myself in ways that nothing else did, right? So I would love playing football and playing basketball. Nice. I was in art school for a minute. I was in music school for a second. Wow. But there were times where like I was like, man, like this is cool and all, and I love these things, but the bike, man, I was able to actually channel my creativity and express myself in a way that nothing else allowed me to.
Yeah. No,
and I think that's what kept me riding. And once I started to get good, I was like, nah, this is what I want to do.
And you wanted to stay on it.
Nah, 100%.
And I think you touching on those things just show how diverse you were as an individual then. And I think it pays homage to what you've done now. And those are the things that we'll definitely get into too. But you're a black man from Queens.
Right.
You chose the bike.
100%.
You could have rapped. That's the home place of hip hop. You could have rapped. You could have run track. I know Grenada Karani James runs
Karani's
track.
that guy.
Like, but why the bike? Like, talk to us about that and doing something that isn't a stereotype or isn't really synonymous amongst our community and what that's meant for you growing up, but also throughout your career.
Yeah, man. Like I always speak to us. Like there's something about grabbing my handlebars with both hands and placing both of my feet on the pedals and riding as fast as I possibly can, and the wind just kind of blowing through, like, pause, like my face. You know what I mean? There's something about that feeling, you know what I mean? Like, I have to pause that, real quick. But I have to also picture that picture of, like, what it's like. But yeah, like, there's something about that feeling that, again, like, there's like nothing else in the world, man. Like, I used to find little curb cuts and used to hit those, like, off like the sidewalk in my neighborhood, and I used to make little, like, board ramps and things of that nature. And yeah, like that's the thing that, like, kept me in it, right? And when you think about growing up in Jamaica, Queens, predominantly black neighborhood, like, riding BMX beyond the age of, like, 17 or whatever the case is, it's not common, right? Like, when at that point in time, during the late 90s, like, when we thought about BMX, like, we thought about it as a white boy sport, because the people that we seen doing it on a very high level on TV and things of that nature, they didn't look like us, right? Like, at all, right? So when I'm riding through the hood and I'm on my bike and I'm doing tricks, like, people thought it was cool, whatever, but they would also joke on me. They were like, "Oh yeah, you on that, like, that, like, white boy shit?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm not. I'm just. This is what I love to do." But I took that as opportunity, and I embraced that challenge. I was like, well, one, I'm gonna, like, prove it to myself. And two, like, I'm going to prove it to the world that, like, we can do this as well. And I'm going to prove people wrong. And that was one of the biggest motivating forces for me, honestly.
Yeah. And I think when you look at that, like, you look at certain people who have transcended a sport that haven't looked like the norm of it. Tiger Woods with golf.
Right.
You're very much that for BMX riding, Like, again, growing up in Milton Keynes, predominantly white area and neighborhood, the only people I saw on a bike were white people. Right. They had their head, them with the suits and all of that, them tight suits. Like, that's all they looked like. And then even the guys that did ride BMXs, again, they didn't look like us as well. So you mentioned, like, people joking you in the neighborhood. Did any of those jokes ever get to you on your climb up as a kid? Like, did you ever go to bed at night and think, oh, right, should I really be doing this? Or was it still always strong in your mind that this is you?
I mean, I'm human, right? Yeah. So, like, at times I did think about it, but I also feel like those experiences helped me develop a tough skin for criticism, and I definitely needed that throughout my career. You know what I mean? I've done things in a very unconventional way, and I've dealt with hate and I dealt with naysayers and people talking shit, like, my entire career. Right. But, like, developing that early on definitely helped my journey.
That's amazing.
Right.
And then we go to you being 18. Going pro, talk to us about that. Like, what, again, to people who don't really understand the BMX industry, what was that feeling like, first of all, and then what does it mean to go pro as a BMX athlete?
Right, so going pro as a BMX athlete, it's very similar to any other sport, right? Whether you go into the draft and you go to the league, basketball, football, whether you sign that first major record deal, whatever the case is, like, you're now participating in this industry or at the highest level possible. Yeah. And for BMX riding, it's the same exact thing. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you've, like, reached that, like, almost in a sense, like a pinnacle. Yeah. And for me, it was that, right? Like, again, coming from Jamaica, Queens, with this big dream to be a professional BMX athlete, and then finally achieving that. It meant crazy. Everything to me, right? Like, I proved all, like, the naysayers wrong. I even proved to my family, because not everyone in my family was, like, believed in the dream. It was like, you trying to do what? Like, you dropped out of college to do what? Like, it was static in my mom's crib, like, those first 2 years before, like prior to going pro. Like, she would come home from work at nighttime. I'd be on the couch sleeping, under my bed sleeping, and she's like, I just worked a 12-hour shift, and I come home, and you're sleeping, and then you're dropped out of college chasing this BMX thing. Wow. It was tough, man. So when I finally turned pro, it was like this relief, but also it was this next level of pressure, right? Because now I had to show and prove, like, this is what I sacrificed for.
It's one thing to get there, but now it's staying there, right?
And staying there, which a lot of people can contest to this. Like, achieving something is one thing, maintaining it is a whole another thing, and then even how I turned pro, you know what I mean? Like, I signed to arguably, well, in my opinion, the biggest BMX athlete of all time, Dave Mirra. You know what I mean? Like, R.I.P.
Shout out to him,
thank you. Dave Mirra's that guy. So I felt like I came into the game as, like, the #1 draft pick. Wow. There was all eyes on me. Like, okay, you got Dave Mirra signing you to his brand as the second BMX rider to his company. Like, what you got? Yeah. So I came into the game, like, with that pressure on me.
And then fast forward a few years, what made you decide not to compete? because again, you talk about transcending the sport, you talk about this huge moment in going pro, but then saying, you know what, I've got here, but I ain't even gonna abide by like the competitions and do it. Talk to us about that and why,
Right.
what was that thought process behind that?
For sure. So coming up in that time, like all the contests were really based around like whether it was the vert ramp or like these like massive skate parks and things of that nature.
Right.
Things that didn't have access to coming up.
Right.
You know, like I remember there was times where I asked my mom, "Can you send me to Camp Woodward?" And Camp Woodward is like
familiar
the
with
most
Camp Woodward.
expensive action sports camp in the world. Right? It was like $2,000 a week. My mom was like, "I'm not sending you to Camp Woodward. Are you crazy? Like, we got mortgage and bills and like keep food on the table, you know." So riding street was the outlet.
Right.
So because I didn't have access to like those things to like ride those contests in those facilities, and I used street riding to turn pro. When after I turned pro, I was like, well, I didn't get here by doing this other thing. I'm gonna continue doing what got me here.
Wow.
You know. And then shortly after that, I was like, you know what, like. I want to prove and show the world that you can find and achieve success in the world of BMX without riding contests. And I wanted to break the mold.
Yeah.
You know, which I feel I'm still on that mission now of just showing people you can achieve and you can ascend to heights going about it in an unconventional way.
And what few things has, and I'm sure it's taught you so many things, but can you touch on a few things that BMXing has taught you? Like when you look at your career, your journey to it, for the audience as well, because I truly believe that there are things in our lives that we go through that they teach us transferable skills. What few things have you learned that maybe someone can pick up from your career?
BMX has taught me perseverance.
Yeah.
You know, like when you have a massive dream and you want to go out and accomplish that, and then you get to that point where you reach that first big goal, right? Along the way, you're gonna have failures. Like it's in the cards, right? It's just which is just what happens.
Yeah.
But how you deal with adversity, how you move through those setbacks, like that's what really like defines you. You know what I mean? And that's what BMX has taught me. It's taught me to like work through those setbacks and work through adversity. It's also taught me how to look at life outside the box.
Right.
And look at things beyond the surface. You know, like you take street riding, for example. When I'm outside, I'm looking at things in a way with like, how can I slide my pegs on this rail? How can I jump down this staircase? Or how could I go as fast as possible down this hill? Like I'm looking at the world in a very unique lens. Right? Even right now, I'm like, well, how can I grind this bench or jump down this thing here? When I walk in, I'll grind across that thing. You know what I mean? So I apply that way of thinking and that way of looking at the world to everything. Like nothing is what it actually seems. You know, and I credit BMX again to a lot of things that I've done even off of the bicycle.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I think touching on adversity, again, many people who may not know the full story may just think they just see Nigel, they see the shoes, they see the success. You fly right now. I see you dripping out right now.
Right.
But there's you put them up. These ain't out. He's stunting on us right now.
Right.
But talk to us again about those 10,000 hours. And I know you're still adding to that bank, but talk to us about the 10,000 hours, what it's meant to get here that maybe some people may not really know.
Right.
Like share with us something that a difficulty.
For sure. I've put my 10,000 hours in 10 times and still counting.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And there's two things from that in particular that I want to touch on. Consistency, right? That's a big thing, man. Like when when you're chasing a goal and chasing a dream, being consistent is the most important part of it. You know what I mean? Like even certain days when you wake up and you don't really want to do something or you're not motivated, staying consistent is gonna push you through. You know, and then being a sponge. Like I'm always learning. You know what I mean? I'm never in a place where I'm too big or too stubborn to learn. Right? Like there's people around me, even in this crowd sitting right now, like Clark Kent, Ralphie, Crystal, etc. That like I'm always learning from.
That's amazing.
And I appreciate having this village around me that can contribute to my goal and my dreams, and also me contributing to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, like just gotta stay locked in, man. And
consistency. That's amazing.
Continue to be a sponge.
Yeah. I love that. Be a sponge. That's a Nike term. It's something that I remember, and I think it's something amazing where you go into whatever environment that you're in and you take from it. Because,
100%.
like you said, you're always a student.
Right.
So I think that's super important.
Now, of course, even walking around Soul DXB and seeing how some of the booths are set up and what people are wearing and the music that's being played and how people are moving around and how this moment exists in Dubai. Like I'm taking notes. I'm writing down on my phone. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
you
that's
know what
amazing.
I mean? Like so. No, always like just being open-minded to things and taking as much as I can from the things that are around me.
Yeah. Talk to us about how many times you've fallen off of your bike, both literally, because I know you've fallen. Me and my wife, we were at Mushraf Park last week Sunday. I was trying to do my BMX like you, and there was a ramp. I don't know what I tried to do, and I turned into a black Superman, and I just fell off.
I love that for you,
I was
man.
seeing kids, they were going around this joint. I was like, oh, hell nah.
Right.
But honestly, talk to us about how many times you've fallen off of your bike, literally, but also in terms of setbacks and what it's mean to get back on the bike again.
For sure, man. Like, falling down is part of the game, right? I've broken bones. I've bruised up my shins. You can see here, my shins is chewed up, man, on both sides. Sprains and bruises, and anyone who's an athlete can contest to this. Like, there's always something that's hurting on your body, right? Like, when you're pushing 100%. Your body to the limit, it's always something that's gonna be aggravating, you know. But I want to break down this misconception that BMX is this ultimate scary and painful sport, right? Yeah. I look at BMX just like any other sport, right? Like, you look at other sports and there's always an athlete on the bench that's healing up from an injury or whatever the case may be, right? And when you think about sports, you just don't go outside one day and start shooting like Steph Curry, right? You don't just go outside one day and you're driving like Lewis Hamilton. It's a build up. You know what I mean? The same thing with BMX riding. Like, I didn't just go out one day and I'm jumping down 10 stairs and grinding up rails. Like, you have to build up to that step by step. I say that to say that during that process, you start to calculate risks and you learn how to avoid getting injured. Yeah, it's part of the game and it happens. But it's just as dangerous as other sports, right? Like, if you're a running back and you're coming through the hole and there's 300-pound linemen coming to tackle you, that's painful, right? Or when LeBron's coming down in fast break, most of the time you're gonna get out of his way. You know what I mean? Right.
Unless you
Draymond's a bully, man. You know what I mean? But I just say all that to say that BMX is just as dangerous, and I get asked this question all the time. And I want people to understand, it's dangerous, it looks dangerous, but it's just as dangerous as any other sport. It's about working your way up to that.
And then where do you think this misconception that BMX isn't as dangerous as a running back running into, where do you think this comes from?
I think just from the media and people not being fully educated on it, right? And a lot of times we'll turn on TV and we'll watch something like Ridiculousness, and all you see is people on BMX bikes killing themselves. You know what I mean? Or you'll see a clip on Instagram and it's a dude that's doing something crazy and he falls and it's I would never ever do that. You know what I mean? So I think it comes from that. So I think part of my job that now in the position that I sit, it's about educating people on that. You know what I mean? And I'm up for that task.
That's amazing. Also on adversities, talk about mental health. Again, you touched on this early on in terms of riding around your neighborhood, people saying things, you being human as well. How has mental health played a role in what you do? Again, when you talk about trying to do a new trick, bro, for me, when I saw that ramp thing last week Sunday, I said, oh, no way. I can't, nah.
Man.
But you look at these things and there's something in your mind that tells you, regardless of the fact, I'm going to still go for it.
For sure. Mental health is a very important thing, man. And we speak about it all the time as a community now so much. And it's real. You know, usually I'm under high pressure situations, right? When I'm outside riding and I'm trying to grind this rail and there's the security guard trying to kick me out. There's a crack on the floor. The sun is setting, and Ralphie's hurry the hell up. We got to get this thing done. But I think that it's important to live life with a balance, you know, and know when to disconnect from certain things and take a moment. For me, I sit on my living room floor. I lay on my living room floor and just zone out, you know. I've also learned to be graceful with myself and others. You know, sometimes it's not in you. Sometimes it's other people that's annoying you or giving you static, you know. 100%. So it's about practicing grace. And also, the bicycle has been a place of escape for me.
Wow.
You know, even when I was younger and I'm coming up, whether it was problems in the home or I'm having a rough time in school, I'll just get on my bike and ride around. I won't do any tricks. I'll just pedal, you know,
be with it in
and
the moment.
bike riding has become this form of therapy for me, and it still is.
Wow.
I'll still go out now and just ride around. I won't do a bunny hop, a bar spin, nothing. I'll just pedal and indulge in the joy and the happiness that comes from just riding my bicycle.
That's beautiful.
Right.
That's honestly beautiful. Let's take a pivot. You're a BMX athlete. You've gone pro and whatnot. The Jordan brand partnership.
Right.
Obviously, that started with Nike a few years prior before, but as a younger version of yourself, did you ever envision this? I'm going to say a few things right now. And this is giving this man flowers because it's absolutely insane. An Air Force One, an Air Jordan 1, a bike Air on the way, inshallah. We'll talk about the bike Air because I've got some things to say about that. But did you ever envision this for yourself or before 36?
I mean, like, the dream was there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nike is a big part of my life and a big part of my career, right? They were one of my first pro sponsorships.
Right.
Pretty much grew up within Nike Inc.
Yeah.
You know? And I was on the Nike side of the business for over 10 years prior to signing to Jordan brand. And I learned a lot, right? Like, when I got to Nike, like, they had me in the boardroom, and I was learning about marketing and brand strategies.
Amazing.
They had me in the product room. I'm learning how to storytell through product and
Wow.
all these different things, and sharpening my skills as far as being a business and a professional athlete on and off my bicycle.
Yeah.
Right? And I had a great time there. You know,
Yeah.
it was amazing until, like, the latter part of my tenure at Nike. To add to those 4 shoes you mentioned,
Yeah.
I also have to mention that I did a Nike dunk called the SOMP, which is acronym for Standing on My Pedals,
Amazing.
which I co-designed with DJ Clark Kent, who was
Big
front
up
row
DJ Clark
right
Kent.
here.
Let's give him some flowers as well. Give him
Yeah,
a round of applause.
Clark's been getting flowers since last night.
Big shout.
No, and I remember that moment was, like, so incredible, man. Like,
Yeah.
we were driving around New York City looking for materials.
Wow.
And, like, talking about the shoe and talking about different parts of the shoe.
Yeah.
And Clark was very instrumental in teaching me, again, how to storytell through product and through materials and things of that nature.
That's amazing.
You know, and then, again, like, towards, like, the latter part of my years at Nike, I was signed to SB and end up doing the Jordan 1.
Yes.
And after I did the Jordan 1, I was like, man, like, maybe I could sign a Jordan one day. Like, that would be crazy. And a few years later, I had brought on a new agent, and one of the first things we did, like, we had the conversation, and, you know, it's hard, like, it's not common that athletes go from Nike to Jordan brand or Jordan brand to Nike.
Yeah.
But the conversation was had, and all parties felt it made sense. And in 2021, I signed as the first BMX athlete ever to Jordan brand. And that was a huge moment, you know, like, it was a huge moment for me, for my family, and also for the sport of BMX, for one of us to be signed to this very prestigious brand and this very tight-knit family, right? I think there's only, like, 70 athletes globally.
It's small.
That are signed to Jordan brand versus a brand like Nike. Where there's, like, thousands of athletes, to give you guys a comparison of how significant that moment is. But it was super dope, and I mean, it's surreal, right?
Yeah. And I think on that significance as well, you talk about how many people are signed, but then how many people have a signature shoe is even smaller. So, like, what does that mean, again, as a kid from Jamaica, Queens, Laurelton, to not just be signed, but then to be able to take 2, 3, 4 of the most iconic shoes of that brand and to have them yours? What does that mean?
Yeah, man, when you think about the SOMP, you think about the Air Force One, the Jordan 1, and an Airship, man.
Yeah.
You're talking about, again, like, 3 very iconic silhouettes within Nike Inc. You know, and for me being a BMX athlete, to have the opportunity to touch all 4 of those shoes.
Yeah.
Again, like, the power of storytelling through product, man, like, it does so much. Where I'm in Dubai and I'm seeing people wear my shoes. Like, I'm seeing them right there. Someone got them. I probably got to sign those
Big
in a
up,
minute.
Ali.
You know what I mean? But again, like, it's something that I don't take lightly.
Yeah.
You know, like, when I went into the design process of the Air Force One, man, I channeled one of my favorite movies, which is Paid in Full. You know, and that time era, I just think it was, like, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Man, especially, like, when you talk about, like, the fashion, right, and things that like Dapper Dan was doing, and like I'm looking at pictures from that period. I'm like, man, this is so cool. It was loud, and it was colorful. You know what I mean? It was vibrant.
Yeah.
Right. It's about like those premium leathers and them
The
suedes
materials
and
and
the
whatnot.
velvets and the quilts, and that's the things we channeled on that shoe.
Amazing.
You know, like it was again, it was something that I probably watched that movie 300 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something I often do. And then we go to like the Air Jordan 1, again, pulling from my real life experience.
Yeah, talk to us about that.
When I go out and ride my bike, I don't have any brakes on my bike. So no matter how fast I'm going.
This guy's living life on the edge,
you
guys.
have to, man. That's when you know
life
you're alive.
on the edge.
But my shoes are my brakes. So I'm
Wow.
usually, no matter how fast I'm going, I put my foot down and the outsole is getting like chewed up. Or I'm putting my foot in between the tire and the frame.
Yeah.
And again, like the shoe's getting destroyed. So
How many shoes you gone through doing that, bro?
Oh man, like throughout my career, like too many, man. I mean, again, I'm fortunate. I've been
yeah, you blessed.
signed to Nike for quite some time, right? No, but that process of going through a pair of shoes in like a week or a week and a half,
Yeah.
being able to take that and articulate that onto an Air
Amazing,
Jordan
man.
1 was sick. And at that point in time, like people knew me for wearing grilled Jordan 1s and like riding my bike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Breads, everything.
So being able to, again, apply that to a shoe, tell that story. And it was pretty significant for the brand as well, too, right? This is the first time Jordan Brand's putting out a distressed shoe. You know, usually you want to get a pair of shoes out the box and they're crispy.
Crisp, yeah.
These are like
Already
cooked, you know. But as we know, like, I mean, like Jordan 1s, they look really good like when they're beat up. So I think that shoe was successful because it checked so many boxes.
Yeah.
You know, like it was this authenticity there because people see me doing it for so long. We used the classic red, black, and white colorway on the shoe, and we told an amazing story, man, and people like loved it.
It was beautiful, man.
No, thank you. It just warms my heart when I see it around the world. You know what I mean?
That international love must be crazy as well, right?
It's crazy, man. To know how far like the BMX bike has taken me.
Yeah.
And then to the most recent, the Airship.
Oh,
right.
Let's talk about this one now.
That shoe is so important to the Jordan brand and Michael Jordan himself, like that whole thing, you know, like this being the first shoe that MJ wore when he came into the league. You know what I mean? It has this essence of prove yourself and Jordan coming in number 3 pick, and he's kind of tight about that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
Like that shoe embodies that. So when I had the opportunity to do the friends and family shoe, I was like, man, like let me go back to the moment where I had to prove myself.
Wow.
And I go back to like my origin story, which is growing up in Queens and having to prove that BMX riding it matters to me. You know what I mean? It's important, and it can take me out the hood.
Yeah.
Right? So the colorway, like we pulled that white and blue from the Queens flag.
Amazing.
So that's why the shoe's white and blue. And then I'll say like a year or two prior to doing that shoe, the idea of putting Bike Air on a shoe was something we had.
Because that's significant, bro.
Extremely.
Like, that's massively significant. To be able to take the name of the shoe off of Nike, Jordans, again, what that shoe means, and to put your spin on it.
Right.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, man. Like that. Like Nike Air is such a classic logo. It's such an identity, man. We all know what it is. So to take that N off and then put a B there, right, and go from Nike Air to Bike Air.
Yeah.
It's just so fitting. You know what I mean? Like who else but me?
Of course.
You know.
Wow.
So like when we got the approval for that, I was like, oh, that shoe's out of here. I was so excited, man. And like when we put it out and to see like the reaction from people,
for it, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was, again, it was just surreal. Like words can't describe it.
Absolutely amazing. I saw PJ got his pair courtside, and then I saw a few weeks later, then the GR version came out with Airship on the back. Right. I was a bit upset about that because I wanted that Bike Air on the back, you know.
Yeah, you and a lot of people.
I wanted that Bike Air on the back, but not too much light.
Yeah,
not too much light will be shed up on the topic.
I had nothing to do with that.
Again, you're a sneaker man. You're flaunting us today with these sneakers on you. Talk to us about your top 3 sneakers of all time, if you can put 3 in a list.
Man,
if you can go particular order, that would be great. If you just want to go randomized, then we'll let the audience pick.
Randomize it, man. We're going to go...
You don't want to rank?
Nah, man.
Can you rank?
I don't want to, though. Air Force 1, Jordan 1.
Yeah.
Diamond Turf.
Oh, okay.
Dion is that guy, man.
Crazy.
Dion, man.
Big up Dion.
Nah, hell yeah.
So when you're talking about creativity, and I think for yourself, when did you realize that you had something special as a personal brand and a story that you could tell through whatever medium it would be, whether it's footwear, whether it's your brand partnerships? When did you realize that for yourself?
I realized that shortly after going pro.
Okay.
Right? So I signed to one of the biggest drink brands in the world when I was 20 years old. I signed to Gatorade.
Yeah.
And I remember like going on the website because they had a carousel with all the athletes. And it was like MJ and Serena and Derek Jeter.
And then
Peyton Manning, Dwayne Wade, and I'm right up there. I'm like, oh shit, look at me.
Mama made it.
It's a moment,
Mama
you know.
made it.
But I say that to say because Gatorade gave me the first opportunity to where they gave me a budget and allowed me to create freely.
Wow.
And shout out to one of my mentors, Kenny Mitchell, because at that time he was running the Gatorade Action Sports program.
Okay.
And he gave me this budget. It was like, yo, do your thing, just make sure it's good.
Yeah.
And my team and I, we created the Gatorade Go All Day series.
Amazing.
And that was the first time I was like really able to showcase not just my bike riding, but my community, New York City, fashion, like music, all these other things. I put all of the things that I was into this video, and it was a huge success, right? It was the first time people in BMX seen something like that.
Yeah.
And that will go on to be the prelude to the Go series.
Yeah.
You know, like the Gatorade Go All Day concept.
That's amazing.
Opened the door for me to say, you know what, I'm going to eventually do the Go series later on.
And then where do you get your inspiration from to do these things? Like to bring in the different mediums, to bring in the things that you love into one space through BMX. And where does that inspiration come from?
I draw inspiration from everywhere, whether it's movies, music, my community, my family. You know, like movies is the big one, right? Because I'm super visual.
Yeah.
Right? And like there's this one scene in Goodfellas where Henry, the main character, is taking a shorty on a date. And they do this one continuous shot where he gets out the car and he walks across the street and he goes downstairs into the staircase and he's walking through this basement and through the kitchen and upstairs through the restaurant and then to the beginning to like the front of the restaurant with like prime seating. And they shoot the whole thing in one take.
Wow.
And it's so impressive because there's so many moving parts to like capture this one scene.
Right.
And that's always been something that stuck with me. And I was like, man, like I want to create something like that similar.
Yeah.
And that scene in Goodfellas inspired the Go series.
Wow.
So I was like, how do I create a video that's a one long shot of me on my bike, but I'm going around the world?
That's amazing.
You know, and obviously I couldn't just film one long shot around the world. So we developed this, we developed our transitions within the Go series to make it look like it's one long shot. You know, so movies for sure. Music is huge for me. You know what I mean? Like 95% of the time when I'm riding my bicycle, I'm riding the music.
Okay.
When I'm editing a video, I'm editing to music. You know what I mean? Clark and I spoke last night. I'm referencing Clark a lot because he's here. We spoke about this amazing concept last night that combines music and bike riding.
Crazy.
Hopefully we'll shoot it in Paris soon.
That soon, inshallah.
It'd be a moment. But like music is huge for me.
Yeah.
My community, right? I have some amazing friends, man, and like most of them are killing it in their own right. You know, whether it's a Greg Una or a Ronnie or a Teddy or Chris Stamp, like they're killing it, you know. And every time I see them put a win on the board, I'm inspired and motivated. And then last but not least, like family. Again, I have to always shout out my mom because she was such a driving force in my life, you know. And again, like to see how hard she worked and how much she sacrificed, I knew like every time I touched my bicycle, I have to give it my 100%.
She makes you go hard.
100%.
I think you're a man who already has a dedicated form of transport. Like, you bike, you move around.
Right.
I kind of feel like you're a bit selfish. You got the Mercedes deal, man. Talk like I don't bike. Like, at least give me the Mercedes. Like, you guys understand you biking already. You don't even, but you got the Mercedes deal too.
This is Mercedes-Benz.
But at least give it to me.
This is Mercedes-Benz, man. MB. The best of nothing.
I know, but let me have a little bit at least.
I got to put the bike in the wagon, right?
True. Order a remote too. Order a remote.
I can't ride my bike everywhere,
That's
man.
true. But talk to us about that, man. Like
sure,
it means to get that and all the other partnerships that you've been able to.
It's just an extension of what I normally do. You know what I mean? Like the funny thing, when the opportunity came about to work with Mercedes, at first they weren't sure about it. They were like. They were asking that question: how does a BMX athlete and Mercedes like come together? Like, how does that partnership work? And actually proved to them that it can work. Yeah. Through like my first Jordan 1 release, And weeks later, they were like, okay, cool, we get it.
Wow.
It makes sense. Like, let's team up. And I've been signed with Mercedes for the last 5 years.
That's dope.
And again, it's been an amazing partnership, man.
That's dope. And then how do you navigate across all the other deals that you've been able to do and partnerships that you've been fortunate enough to have, whether it's Ramoa and all those other things? Like, what does it mean to navigate across different fields that you love and different fields that aren't really connected to BMX, but making that connection? What does that mean?
Man, it just shows the versatility of my brand, you know. And when you see me doing a partnership or a collaboration with a brand that's not necessarily tied to BMX, quote unquote, just know that it's, again, a natural extension of what I do. You know, I'm a very curious person by nature, so I'm always thinking about, well, how can I work with brands and work with products that I use in my everyday life?
Wow.
You know, so like, you speak of the Remova, right? Like, I travel so much, right? I'm traveling more than half of the year.
Wow.
You know, and my bike has to come with me.
Yep.
So for that, I was like, man, like, in BMX, like, prior to, like, the Remova case, there wasn't a premium form of traveling with my bike. And I wanted to create a solution for that. And teaming up with Remova, and you think about this premium luggage brand and being able to challenge and push them in a place that they may be a little bit uncomfortable for them, but the end product was incredible.
Absolutely
you know,
amazing.
being able to create that case and like the notoriety it got and how excited people were and like the possibility of that. You know, when you think about Fendi, right? Like, you don't necessarily think about Fendi and you think about a bike, but having the opportunity when Fendi approached me to do a collaboration, like, they were thinking of just gonna like put some clothes on and like and walk around. I was like, nah, like, let's do a Fendi bike. And they were like, okay, dope. And he sent me this like 8-foot roll of like Fendi monogram material. And I was like, dope. And we made the first ever BMX Fendi bike.
Amazing.
You know, so like, these things again are just me pushing myself, pushing my brand partners, and putting like a proper stamp on things that are authentically me and things that work in my life.
Yeah. And then on that, if we flip it to brand partnerships that aren't true to you, I'm sure that there are partnerships that have come about that you've also said no to. Talk about staying true to yourself and holding on to that and not letting a brand or a partnership or a deal change that or change who you are or manipulate that.
Yeah, man, I've built my brand on authenticity and integrity. You know, like, those things are very, very important to me.
Yeah.
I don't just do deals for the money. You know, I've turned down a bunch of deals, but it could have been great money.
Yeah.
But if it didn't fit, right, if like our brand values didn't align, then I can't do it. Like, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in this for longevity.
It's
like, I want to be great when it's all said and done. I want to be considered one of the best to ever do it. And I think that matters. Like, every decision you make for a brand deal or a video or these decisions you make throughout your career, they all matter. Yeah. So like, I'm not jeopardizing myself or my brand for a quick paycheck or to align myself with something that doesn't naturally fit.
Yeah. And to anyone in the audience that may be starting something, pursuing anything, are there any non-negotiables that you can advise people that they should keep and should never let go of?
Don't compromise yourself.
Right.
Yeah, like, don't compromise yourself for bad money or a quick paycheck, man. Like, stay true to what you do. Like, that's the most important thing, man. Like, when you're pursuing something, you're starting from ground zero, stay true to yourself, follow your gut, follow that intuition, and just know, like, if you stay locked in, like, you can achieve those things, right? Like, we live in a day and age where you could go on the internet on any given day and someone's just accomplished the impossible. You know, like, literally. There's so many more resources nowadays and so many more things that we have to our disposal that we can use to achieve our ultimate goals. So again, just stay locked in and just don't compromise.
That's amazing. You mentioned Go Ride before. I think it's worth also mentioning that in 2019, the World Bike Day was commemorated, right? They commemorated it in a year where we couldn't really ride our bike, if you guys can remember, 2019 and what COVID meant. But talk to us about what that Go Ride celebration day, or less than 24 hours, less than a day, was.
Yeah, so when I discovered that World Bicycle Day was a thing, I was like, oh, this is super cool. And the team and I were like, well, how do we celebrate World Bicycle Day, right? And like plant my flag in the ground and like really like own a bit of this day.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, okay, we need to think about doing something. And of course, doing a bike ride is like the first thing that comes to my mind. But in my mind, I was like, well, I can't just do any bike ride. It needs to be something that's super fire. You know what I mean? And something that's on brand. So I was like, well, think about the title, like what this day is. It's World Bike Day. So we need to do a world bicycle ride, you know? So I said, okay, where do we start and where do we finish? So I'm looking at the map, looking at time zones, and I'm like, well, if we start in Europe and we go west, we'll be able to hit 2 locations in the same exact day. So I said, okay, let's think about 2 iconic and influential cities, London being the first one and New York being the second one, finishing back at home. So I started to put the plan together where we're going to start this bike ride in London. We're going to do 15 miles. We're going to have food and drinks and music, right? And we had about 250 kids come out.
It looked insane.
The energy was so crazy being in London, riding with these 250 kids. And at one point, we stopped on the Tower Bridge.
Wow.
Right? So imagine 250 kids. There are people walking on the side. There's traffic. And we stopped on the bridge and just took over the bridge for like a minute.
No way.
And had these kids screaming, go ride, go ride. Like,
what does that mean?
Man.
Yeah.
What meant everything to me, man. Like being able to materialize this idea of mine, and it comes together in a place like London.
Yeah.
Right. And then prior to that, we had did I had did a sneaker shopper interview at Kids Game. Yeah.
Pick
and
up
I
Dan
bought
and
like
Craig.
a bunch of 3s and 4s and 1s, and I'm giving out shoes at the ride, and kids are going crazy. And then we chartered a jet, about like 10 of us on a jet. We flew to New York like directly after, like literally like the ride ended at 1 o'clock. We were on the plane by like 2:15.
That's insane.
Flying to New York.
Yeah.
And we landed in New York around like 6 o'clock and went straight from the plane to the bike ride. And we had almost 1,000 kids like waiting.
That's nuts, man.
To like participate in this bike ride in New York City, and coming home and like getting out of the Benz and seeing the energy. And people are yelling and screaming and music's playing and flashes going off. I got my whole team with me and families there and friends are there, man. It was insane. And we took these 1,000 kids and went uptown, and then we came back down. And on the way down, we stopped in Times Square. And literally had almost 1,000 kids in Times Square screaming, "Go ride, go!"
Crazy
it was
moments,
like,
man.
Get goosebumps just like thinking about it, talking about it right now.
Moments,
I mean, it was such a moment, right, to galvanize these 2 incredible bicycle communities on this day.
Yeah.
Like to celebrate just the joy and the freedom and the fun and the excitement of riding bicycles and seeing how far bike riding has taken me and my community. It was such a special moment for me, man.
And you touch on community. What, like, to do it, to hear the thought process about doing it as a transatlantic celebration is absolutely amazing, because that was one of my questions that I was going to pose after. But how important is community to you? And again, we see the shoes over there. You go around, you go to London, 250 kids. Like, when you go around and you see these communities and these individuals that you've inspired, whether to jump on a BMX or to purchase your sneakers because they love the touch to it, how does that make you feel?
Man, community for me is everything, right? Like, forming these relationships that last a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? And when I was here in Dubai in 2017, I met LA for the first time. And like he was featured in Go Dubai, and we shot some content. It was great.
Dope.
And being able to see him at like Paris Fashion Week or LA at Basel, or in Miami at Art Basel, or in Los Angeles, and we seen each other a month ago in the Maldives.
Crazy.
And we shot some content down there. Like my friend Chris Stamp, he has a brand called Stamp, and he flew a bunch of us down there to celebrate the release of this resort collection that he did.
Nice.
And we're in the Maldives for like a week, having the best time. And LA's about to leave like later that night. But I was like, before you leave, like, let's like shoot some content.
Wow.
And we shot this video on this island in the Maldives on this beach cruise, and we had so much fun.
That's dope.
You know, and then seeing them out here, and we had dinner last night. I say that to say that forming these like relationships around the world that will last a lifetime, that we can create content together or just talk and kick it and exchange information and exchange different things of that nature is so powerful. You know, like sometimes I even say like relationships are arguably worth more than money.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like those things last a lifetime, and again, you can create and and just share, you know, and I think that's super important. Like, you come to New York, like, yo, I got you, LA, you know what I mean? So, it's just dope, you know, like that's how I look at community, being able to support one another around the world and like help each other build, and that's, again, it's priceless.
And I love what you touched on there. I've got a pops in McKinney, Texas, and he once said to me, in life, everything is about relationships, the rest is just stuff. And I think what you've just said also touches to that too, and I think is so, so important. We're here at Soul, we're celebrating 50 years of hip hop. When we think about hip hop and for yourself, talk to us about the intersection that music has played. I know you've gave nods to DJ Clark Kent. Talk to us about what the intersection of hip hop has meant for you.
Man, hip hop has been one of the most influential things in my life and in my career. You know what I mean? Like, there are times when I was a kid and I'm like riding through my neighborhood and I'll see my brother and his friends and they got their new cars, little 9.5 Maxima rimmed up with the mirror tint. You know what I mean? Or Lexus GS rimmed up, blasting music. I was like, man, like that's
dope.
That's like so influential on me, and it's something that like I aspire to. But like that's hip hop. You know what I mean? Like the way we dress, the way we talk, the way we move, how we create. All that's like hip hop, and so much of what I've been doing my entire career, hip hop is at the center of that.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like just that self-expression, that freedom, that challenging status quo, challenging the norm. You know, and like we see it everywhere, man. We got hip hop billionaires out here. You know what I mean? And like and creating legacy and like generational wealth, man. And again, I just feel you can't move around the world without seeing it. You know, even last night when Clark was spinning and he put on that Jay-Z song, and like I'm seeing people throw diamonds up, and you know what I mean? He'll put that one Onyx song on, and the energy went crazy in there. I was just like, damn, man, like this is hip hop. Like we're in Dubai right now, and like hip hop is present. You know what I mean? Like that was super dope, man. So again, it's just super influential on me and like everything that I touch and create.
And word to the Brown Sugar movie, and I think maybe you've answered this already, but when did you fall in love with hip hop?
Early on, right? I think it like was that moment of just seeing like dudes in my neighborhood, like my brothers and like my brother and my older cousin, just like embracing it and living it. You know what I mean? The way like they tied their Timberlands. You know what I mean? Or like how they wore like their North Faces and things of that nature, from like the fashion standpoint and like the music that they like listen to. You know what I mean? Even watching music videos, right? Like seeing some of those hype William music videos like inspired me to create content in the way that I'm creating now. You know, so there's so many touch points that I've like pulled from throughout my career that has inspired me just naturally, man. So I would say that's as a kid, man.
That's dope.
You know?
I'm gonna say a few words right now, and I think when we think of hip hop, this is crazy. Frank Ocean, Jay-Z, biking. Real quick, Nigel, Sylvester with these backflips. That's a full cab and a backflip. Sidebar. What does that mean, bro, to have been name dropped by arguably one of the greatest rappers of all time? Like, talk to us about being referenced by Jay-Z, name in a song, man.
I mean, it's what you think it would be, right? It's pretty
what
incredible.
Was that moment like?
It was a pretty incredible moment. Like, that was one of like the craziest weekends for me, right? And it happened right before I came out to Dubai, actually. That whole month of April was just like a whirlwind. There was some other things going on in my life that weren't so good. And there were things that were going on that were amazing. And that weekend was pretty incredible, right? So leading up to that weekend, I had the idea to do the Louis Vuitton BMX bike.
Yes.
And I was like, man, like it started off with I want to create a bike. Well, like the idea started off where I'm always using my bike to create art and create what I do. But how can I now apply that thinking to the bicycle?
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to wrap my bike in leather, right? And it was like very Dapper Dan inspired. And I was like, you know what? What's the craziest leather I can use?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna wrap it in Louis leather. You know what I mean? So I remember like, going to some like vintage store and buying like an old like Louis Vuitton garment bag.
Yeah.
I felt I need enough leather to wrap the entire bike. And I teamed up with this upholsterer and we did it.
Sick.
And when it was done, I was like, yo, this thing is so fire. Like, the world needs to see it.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to do a pop-up shop in Soho. So I drove around Soho. Well, I rode my bike around Soho and found this one pop-up shop on Delancey and Bowery. And I was like, I'm going to do it in here. I got a good deal on it. I was like, I'm gonna do a pop-up shop in here, and we built like a platform almost the same size as this.
Nice.
I put the bike on there, and I had some merch, and we set it up Thursday evening.
Yeah.
And Friday night was the opening of the pop-up shop, and people came through, and Hypebeast came through, and Heist the Bike came through. All these media like brands came through to highlight the bike, and I believe they premiered the song. No, well before the song premiered, at that point in time, Kim Jones was the CD at Louis Vuitton.
Okay.
And he posted the Louis Vuitton bike, I think, Saturday morning.
Right.
Which was crazy, you know what I mean? Like, you have the men's creative director of Louis Vuitton posting a non-official Louis Vuitton item.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna get sued at first, right? Because I go on Wikipedia, like, how many people got sued for doing Louis Vuitton products that aren't official? And people got sued. Like Britney Spears got sued for a video. Someone else got sued for some stuff. I was like, damn, I hope I don't get sued. But if I get a cease and desist, well, it's gonna be kind of cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the opposite thing happened. He ended up posting it.
Amazing.
So that gave it this incredible stamp of approval. And then the next day, I believe the biking song, it premiered on Beats One Radio or something like that. And I didn't even know because I didn't listen to Beats One Radio at that point in time. But the next morning I woke up, I think it was Sunday morning, I believe, and my phone was blowing up. And I was like, yo, what's going on? And people are like, yo, this is so crazy. Like, Hov shouted you out, etc. I'm like, what are people talking about?
No way.
And then I Googled it. I think I Googled Jay-Z and my name, and I seen the biking title of the song pop up, and I was like, no way. No fucking way.
That's amazing.
And I listened to the track, and I was like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that weekend was memorable, you know?
Yeah.
Putting the Louis Vuitton bike out, the whole Kim Jones thing, and then capping it off with the biking track, you know, was just so dope to see artists of that caliber, Frank, Hov, and Tyler, do a song about bike riding. That alone, had me
That's
hyped.
a huge thing
whether
as well,
I was
right?
shouted out or not, them embracing bike riding just got me hyped, you know? So it was just a really dope moment, man.
Nah, sick. And I think one final question before we open up to the audience for the Q&A. We spoke about top 3 sneakers of all time. Let's go to rappers now.
Right.
You can rank if you want. I know you don't want to rank with the sneakers, but if you had to put a top 3 up there, if you want to extend it to 5, a starting 5, who would you put up there in a 3 to 5 rotation?
Again, I'm not gonna rank it, so I'm just gonna say
just names.
I would say Hov, Big, Kanye,
okay,
Tyler,
right,
and Snoop.
Not like a DMX.
I mean, that's just the top 5 that I'm feeling right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, listen, I gotta give credit to DMX and Rough Riders as well, because you think about hip hop and you think about that group and their connections to bicycling, right? It was more of a motorbike thing, but it was still 2 wheels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That Rough Riders anthem, seeing that video, got me so hyped, right? I would see that and go outside and ride.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? So there's so many to name, but that's the first 5 that come to my mind. You know?
Big up. I think what would be great now is let's open up questions, Q&A to the audience. Does anyone have any questions for Nigel from the audience? We got one guy there. I think we've got a mic for you.
You got that Carhartt suit on, man. You're fire.
Check. All right. So, I want to take you back to some, me as a BMX rider, I consider it as heartbreaking moment. Nike 6.0, where there was a lineup specified just for the BMX riders and for the BMX community. For example, Vans have Vans BMX, and Nike has Nike SB, and they're still ongoing. Me as a BMX rider, man, I should be riding some BMX specified shoes, not Nike SBs, man. So I want to know what went down with the Nike 6.0. What was the thing that made it go down under?
Yeah, man. Nike 6.0 was how I got signed to Nike. I came through that sector of the brand, and it was super dope, man. We arguably had the best team in BMX, right? Shout out to Mark Losey. It was my first shoe I did. That shoe didn't come out, but it was the first time I got to touch a Nike silhouette. It was a super dope program. I truly don't know all the details of what happened, but I think it just ran its course. But the thing I took away from it was that after they dropped the team, I got re-signed. You know what I mean? And I think that was super dope. I think that was a testament to my imprint on BMX, my imprint on culture, and what I was doing at the time. And I'm happy that we still have representation within such an iconic brand. So I know you don't have any BMX specific Nike shoes, but you can also get a pair of Jordan 1s, you know,
For sure.
which was a very popular shoe like for BMX riders and skaters back in the 80s, you know, and just know that we're working on some things.
Inshallah.
So soon come.
Dope.
Inshallah.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yo, bro, welcome to Dubai.
Thank you, sir.
You spoke about, you know, your network and having relationships. Super important, and probably the most important thing for the industry that we're in.
Right.
You know, our sport, BMX, is an extreme sport, as you've said as well. It's looked at risky. It's looked as dangerous. You know, and the normal person that's got a 9-to-5 job, they look at this kind of stuff and think it's risky. You can't do it. You know, Nigel's talking about his shins, and like all BMX riders have got scars, bro. There's no bike rider
The game.
that don't have scars. Like I'm sitting there, like,
See what y'all going on over there.
It's your own
Look at
tattoo,
that.
right?
no ACL. But you know, we definitely go.
Scare him, man. I'm trying not to scare them. Man.
I said no
See this
ACL.
lane I'm trying to take
God
right
damn.
here, man. I'm trying to get more of us in here.
But you know, we go through these things for the love of the sport, and
Right.
it's something that is definitely not talked about enough. The risks that we take. You know, Nigel's one of the best street riders in the world. You know, my discipline is park riding and skate parks, and a lot of the stuff where we've innovated on both sides of the spectrum with BMX. It's cool to see someone that's doing his thing on that side and call this side, but like with your relationships, it wouldn't be able to go as far by just posting clips on Instagram
Nah.
and just posting stuff on socials, because we see riders every day that are, you know, world's first tricks. There's a guy in Australia, Ryan Williams, and bro, the kid is doing like 4 backflips, bike spinning, and the risk of that is so ridiculous that you couldn't even imagine. But like, without your network and without the people that you're putting it in front of the right people, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And yeah, it's incredible to see. So, you know, the stuff like with Fendi, with Louis, with all the big brands that you work with, it's like, I feel like, you know, with the stuff that you do with brands, it's so dope, bro. It's super sick.
No, thank you. Yeah, like that's the big part of it, man. And kids always ask me this question, like, how are you doing what you're doing right now? And again, it started back in the beginning, right? Like just having these ideas and building, like laying it brick by brick, you know? And because our sport is niche, right? And because we don't have like proper media outlets and we don't have big leagues and TV deals and things of that nature. We don't have like coaches and training staffs and things of that nature. You have to get creative.
Because
you know?
it's too extreme for them. It's too extreme. When they see it, they just, they think it's like
Exactly.
video editing software, or it's not real, it's not this, it's not that.
Right.
So
It's a lot, man, but I feel that is the future of how we continue to build a sport.
1,000,000%.
Is we have to go outside of it. We have to introduce people to it and create new access points. And that's what I've been doing for a very long time, like through my content, through my projects, through opportunities like this.
Yeah.
I appreciate Soul for having me out here. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate all you guys for sitting down and listening. You know what I mean? It means a lot. I hope you guys got some information from this
$100 million
conversation,
worth
but
of game.
these things are very important to continue to shed light on BMX and create access points, man.
Yeah.
So
Any final? We've got Auntie. We've got 2.
I like your hair. Look at that. See what y'all going on over there.
Thank you, Nigel.
You're welcome, love.
Oh. Well, anyway, yeah, just a quick question. So I'm not a BMXer. That's for one.
You sure?
And I'm not,
Oh,
but
okay.
I wanted to ask you: is there any like age restriction when we can start? Like,
Wow.
I think that we can, you know,
Right.
definitely get something going on. You
Yeah.
can teach me the
you.
basic rudiments, and maybe we
I
could
got you.
go spinning into the
Go
sunset.
Spinning into
Painted
the
that
sunset.
picture.
I
Auntie
love
said
that.
sunset.
Note
The
to
whole
self,
vibe.
spin into the sunset. No, there's no age limit. But something I tell people, man, it's like, even though you're not out doing tricks or going crazy and doing 4 backflips or jumping over cars, whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
just ride a bike,
Wow.
right? As long as you ride a bike, like, and you can participate and be involved, like, the biking industry is so massive. Like, BMX is niche, but the bike industry is massive.
huge.
So long as you're riding a bike and having fun, like, you could get involved.
Awesome.
Maybe a sunsets in the future.
Right,
Yeah,
and spin
of
into the
course.
sunset.
Spin into the sunset.
Thank you.
I love that.
And I think there was a gentleman behind.
Hello, check 1, 2. Hey,
There you
Nigel.
go, mic check. Okay, what's up, bro?
I thought I was going to
I'm a
spit a
bit
bar.
mic shy, so yeah, I will try to talk normally. When did you realize that? Okay, so first of all, in the realm of BMX, like if someone makes a tier list, you're probably like at the top. Like mashallah, you're one of the goats probably. When did you find that out that you're like one of the highest tiers and like maybe the best BMX rider? In my opinion,
I appreciate that.
in my opinion, the best. I watch your YouTube videos. I really enjoyed them. Even when I was younger, I really loved them. So when did you realize that?
I don't think I realized that yet. I think I'm still working towards that. I
That's
think
good.
I'm putting in work every single day to cement my legacy. Like I said, man, like when it's all said and done, I want to be one of the greatest to ever touch a bicycle, and that's gonna take some more time. But I'm hoping that through my riding, things that I'm doing on and off the bicycle, that again, like when it's all said and done, people view it that way, you know. And the ultimate goal is just to be happy when it's all said and done. But thank you for the
You've
comment. I
made a
appreciate
huge
it.
legacy. I
Thank
really
you, bro.
enjoyed what you have done,
Thank you, man. We got so much more on the way.
Amazing.
for sure.
Any other questions? I've got one personal question. I think this will be a good point to end us out on.
Cool.
I love what you do on your Instagram where you write something motivational, inspirational, enlightening that you share with the world. Is there anything that you've got for us right now, again, off the top of your head? I don't know if you're going to post anything whilst you're in Dubai that is positive for where we are right now and that can inspire the audience.
No, I actually don't have anything on my hand right now. But I usually write things on my
Yeah.
hand as
And I
kind
love
of
that,
as like
man.
kind of like reminders to myself.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like no matter what we're doing in this world, like we have to remind ourselves of certain things. And that's how the whole thing started. I was in the crib one day and I was like, man, like I always write things down in my notes.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want to put it somewhere where like I can look at it throughout the day and see it.
Wow.
So I wrote on my hand like what did I write? I wrote create dope shit and the money will follow.
Yeah.
And I wrote that and I went out for a bike ride. And by the time I got to the city, it was gone because I was writing my handlebars. And I posted it and like without even like expecting too much from it.
Yeah.
And like it got crazy likes and crazy engagement. Started to write it more and more. I feel like the next thing I'm gonna write is channel your superpower.
Wow.
You know, find out what you're amazing at, find out what you love, and do that to the fullest.
Yeah. That's absolutely amazing. I think that's an amazing point to end on. Channel your superpower. Nigel, it's been an absolute pleasure.
For sure,
Again,
appreciate
thank you for allowing me this moment.
Thank you, guys.
Please give a round of
Appreciate it.
applause, Mr. Nigel Sylvester.